Hi there. Welcome to the podcast. Great to have you with me. It is such an honor and a pleasure that you are here on the world's least entertaining podcast. I'm not an entertainer. I don't strive to be an entertainer. You won't find any jingle grams or jazzy intros or commercials or anything like that because, frankly, money's got nothing to do with it. I'm concerned about the glory of God and the health and welfare of my family. If I love my brothers and sisters in Christ, if I truly love them, if it's not lip service to God, but if in my heart I bear a concern for their health, their safety, and their spiritual welfare, then I'm going to do what I can to equip them, to prepare them, to open their eyes, to point towards the truth, and you do the same. We all need to be on the deck working together. Now, I did a coronavirus update on Tuesday, and now we're on Thursday, and that update is stale. It's old news. There's a lot more taking place. So I'm going to rack my brain and try and concisely, state all the things that I've learned. And, frankly, before I start, it is so difficult to know what is true and what's not true. But I'll tell you what I believe very adamantly is not true. And that's the numbers coming out of China. The official numbers put the infected at around 10,000 and the death toll at around 600. And that number doubled on Wednesday from 360 up to 600 and some. A very troubling increase, even coming out of China's news. They are rushing to build new hospitals, a multitude of new hospitals. So it's very obvious from what they're revealing that it's out of control, even with their own news sources, which are, it's like a Twinkie. It's been so processed, it's bad for you. Unfortunately, Western mainstream media is going with these numbers, and that's allowing the general population to be at ease, to be relaxed, to think this is like SARS, it'll all blow over. Now I want to tell you the things that are taking place and hopefully cause you to take some steps of precaution of your own, because like I said, we don't really have no news sources that we can rely on. The alternative news sources, I trust them more, but at the same time, there is going to be an element of alarmism because that draws numbers, that draws attention. If you sound the alarm and stir people up to fear, you will get more views, you will get more hits on your commercials, you will make more revenue, and that's why I don't want to commercialize or seek any form of money out of this podcast, because money is a dirty little master and I don't want to serve it. You'll either serve the one and hate the other. And so I don't want to serve money and have everything I say influenced by money or by looking for fame or popularity, which is very closely tied to money. So we have to kind of sift through the different various media sources and decide for ourselves, okay, I believe it's worse than what the Chinese media is letting on, but I don't necessarily believe it's as bad as what the alternative media is stating. Now, a whistleblower came out a little over a week ago in China, a nurse in one of the hospitals saying the government is lying. The number of infected is over 90,000. And, if this is true, that woman knows that what she's saying is going to land her in prison. It would take the Chinese government less than a day to track her down and lock her up. So it was a tremendous sacrifice on her part if it was true. Another whistleblower came out 3 days ago, a man who was filming at a Chinese hospital, showing body bags everywhere, being stacked up, and people literally dying right behind him while he was filming. and wanting to get out the message that the situation in China was much more dire than what the government was reporting. Is it true? I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't been able to follow. I live in a truck. It's very hard for me to do that kind of research. I haven't been able to verify how truthful these whistleblowers are. Then we have the numbers coming out of Taiwan of 160,000 infected yesterday. And the thing that alarms me is, as I said, I'm cobbling together various news articles. A little over a week ago, a whistleblower said 90,000. Now, a week later, we have the number 160,000. Those numbers mesh. Those numbers match up, and that's very troubling. It seems to lend credibility to the nurse who risked it all to get the message out. You see where my concern comes from. I don't expect the Chinese Communist news media to be honest about anything, let alone a screw up. So I lean towards the fact that the coronavirus is spreading far more rapidly than anyone is taking seriously. Now, to get more into what the coronavirus is, it did not more than likely come out of the seafood market. Patient zero had never been to the seafood market. And 14 of the initial 40 infected had nothing to do with the seafood market. Interestingly, there is a Chinese level 4 research facility just a few blocks away from the seafood market that happened to coincidentally be studying the coronavirus. That's a rather strange coincidence, isn't it? Now, another bit of news, the Canadian RCMP arrested and deported Chinese researchers from Winnipeg who were there on a research visa studying with the Canadian researchers on what of all things were they researching? The coronavirus. And something happened. They were sending information back to China that the Canadian government found out about and had them arrested and deported. Sounds like they were up to something that was a little bit less than on the level, doesn't it? And you have a research facility in Wuhan province, probably where that information was going to, as they were also studying the coronavirus. I'm going to lean towards the fact that the coronavirus originated from that research facility, and it's not just a simple bacteria. There are weird elements to this, and this is why there hasn't been an effective antivirus yet. They're using AIDS medications to treat it because it has some elements of that shifting antigen. So we're not sure what the Chinese were researching, but some have suggested a biological weapon. And it escaped out of that research facility just a few blocks away from the fish market. I don't know about you, but I do favor that understanding of coronavirus to the fish market and the 600 total deaths. But I could very well be leaning over to the side of alarmism. This is all we can do, is try and sift through the information ourselves and make up our minds. Is it true or is it not? But here's another, a very pertinent piece of information that you need to know. Everything you see in the news today, everything, what you see when you turn on the news tomorrow and go and look for what's taking place with the coronavirus, that news is 2 weeks old. 2 weeks. The virus spreads for 2 weeks before any symptoms show up. So I want you to, struggle to imagine, take a graph, chart out the spread, and the numbers that you know, come up with as being the closest to truth as you can discern, graph it out to 2 weeks in the future, and that should give you a clear understanding of where we're truly at. So in China, if the numbers that were popping up out of Taiwan, if yesterday the number was at 160,000, and we put that on a graph that goes backwards through January, we're in the millions infected right now, easily in the millions. And it's something that we actually have to take seriously. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. If those numbers, if my cobbled together understanding of what's really happening is close to accurate, then we could have real issues here in the Western world in the next couple of weeks. And that got me thinking, I'm going to go and buy some masks now and just be ready for this. And I went on Amazon. I used to shop for masks when I drove truck hauling bulk sawdust and things like that. I always wore face masks. So I could get a box of 50 of them for about $65. And I was thinking the same thing. I'll just get a box for $65. 50 masks will be nice to have on hand. Should, heaven forbid, things continue to spiral out of control, it could be difficult in the future getting my hands on masks. And I went on Amazon and I saw I could buy 10 of them for $70 or $80, 20 of them for around $100. I couldn't find a box of 50. So the price of masks has already taken an alarming jump. And it's not going to get better anytime soon. So the first thing I'm doing this weekend is going to, there are industrial supply businesses in most communities. Go to your local industrial supply and look for masks. Now, it can't be the cheap dollar store variety that has one elastic that goes around the back of your head. That doesn't form a proper seal around your mouth and nose. You need to be sealed properly around your mouth and nose. And if you have facial hair, you might have to shave it off if this gets serious. That's something you men, may have to sacrifice your beard to stay alive. But you need masks that are charcoal activated and seal fully around your mouth and nose. And that's the first thing I'm doing in terms of preparing. The second thing is I'm thankful that I have some food on hand, because the people in China are being quarantined to their homes. They're not allowed to leave their homes. And in China, they may very well shoot people who leave their homes and break quarantine. I don't know. I don't know how severe it could get. And I'm thinking, I'm very pleased that I have a stock of food at home that could carry me right now through a couple of months. And I'm thinking, how long could I be forced to stay in my home? Theoretically, is 2 months enough? And I'm planning this weekend also to continue stockpiling some extra food as well. Now, I know this is alarmist, and most people, if you go with the herd, you're just going to carry on acting like nothing is happening. And when it does happen, you will be at the mercy of the government. You will be compelled to obey them because they are the ones who have the resources. They're the ones who can bring us to our homes and lock us up there, who can bring food to our homes. We really become, we fall to the mercy of the government. And they may, like I said before, begin to force injections, antivirus injections that, lo and behold, the World Health Organization and the United Nations get their wish, get their dream come true, that each injection also carries your digital identification just to ensure that you've already received the vaccination. And, these are troubling times. And I know, like, I'm a very imaginative person, but this is on the table. This is literally on the table. And I want you to be, forewarned is forearmed. I want you to have your eyes open to what is coming. What are your options? If the government says, stay in your home, we're going to bring you food and an antivirus injection that will have your digital identification already in it, inserted into it. It'll be one shot. You won't have to worry about the coronavirus anymore. You'll be able to go back to work. I think most people are going to just go for it. And I say this with wonder that I think a lot of Christians are going to go for it, because what is their option? Well, my Bible says that anyone who receives the mark cannot be saved. And I refuse to receive the mark. If that means coronavirus, if it means no food, I don't care. I don't care what it means. I will not take the mark. I will not give up my salvation for anything on this planet. And I hope you're the same mind. So this is merely speculation. I'm just throwing it out there so that you can consider it for yourself, take the steps, reasonable steps, precautions that you think are in order. And if it turns out that I was just being henny penny, running around screaming the sky is falling, I'm more pleased than anyone. I'll be happier than anyone to wear the egg on my face. I would rather anticipate horror and be over-prepared for it and needlessly prepared for it than blindly stumble into a trap. So, and I want to close with a final reminder. We have this assurance from the Lord. No weapon formed against us will prosper. And that includes the coronavirus. It can't harm us if that's what Jesus Christ wants. If he wants us to live and to go out and to minister and to share the gospel and to bring food to others, the coronavirus can't touch us. How many missionaries have gotten up in the face of malaria and scurvy and the Black Death, Ebola and everything else, and gone out and ministered to the needy in faith? Because they knew that the Lord would not let anything happen to them outside of his will. If it's God's will for us to remain and minister, then we will remain and minister, and the coronavirus and the government have no power over us. So I don't want this to be a time of trembling and terror, but a time of preparation and a time of growing faith. We are in God's hands, and nothing will, I'm trying to remember the Psalm. I think it's Psalm 91. It gives us tremendous assurance that we are safe in God's hands. So thanks for joining me today. God bless and keep each one of us.